about that the other day after we had an alderman. And it was really good job. You're right, after that, we're making
Busy?
Yeah. Right. You can see the situation personally. It's so way now. For months and
Yeah, I used to. You know, you're getting old when you got glasses, you still got to have magnifying glasses.
So everything is printed out, all of it's being printed, and then she still has to magnify glass and read the agenda and call things with a magnifying glass. Yeah, she's a super nice person. He's a retired police officer.
You know, certain people there, so we're getting broadcast. Introduce myself to them.
Yeah.
Good watching. So many people.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So reading glasses, but discovery is photos of the.
And I did that for years. $10.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was really digging
Yeah,
to
we're almost at the very end.
so you can shoot my rifle.
Right.
But you know, they are benefit to you.
Sure.
When I started running over the cars and tractors, it became more beneficial just to wear them all the time.
Yeah.
More cost effective. No. Good man. I call this meeting of the Seymour City Council to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Brady Bennett?
Yes.
Mary Carpenter? Yes. Jenny Chris? Yes. Jim Ashley?
Yes.
It is determined there is a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I see that we have our minister here in the group, Mr. Shue. Stand if you would, if it's convenient, and give us a prayer, and then we'll turn and place the flag back and cite the American Legion.
I've been just reading from Jeremiah. The heart is deceitful. And that helped me to look at my own heart, because it's all inclusive. And we all need to look deep within and see if there's any deceit. We all need to do that. And so my prayer tonight is that we would look into our own lives and be sure that we're not deceitful. Father, tonight I thank you for the freedom, our council meeting. our mayor's tie that is so symbolic of veterans. And we thank you for those who protected our country and the privilege of having a Veterans Day. And we ask your blessing on those that have served and have consequences that go beyond understanding. Bless tonight as we meet and debate, talk about, settle things for the best of our community. And we ask your guidance in doing that. Help us to examine our hearts. We're not deceitful, and yet your word says the heart is. Help us to be open to each other and to listen and to allow your Spirit to deal with us appropriately. Thank you again for this wonderful time in our nation and in our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If I could place the flag, repeat after me, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move right into old business approval of minutes. Has every council member had a chance to read over the minutes as have been presented? Actually, two sets, I believe. Yes. Any additions or deletions? If all members have had a chance to read over those, and there are no changes to be made, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. To approve the paying the bill. But we haven't looked at the bill yet, have we?
No.
So we voted on the minutes, we just need
Then we have a first and second. Okay. Can I have a first on that? I mean, can I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we're official. All right, I'll move on in then to the new business. And you have before you a copy of the bills that are presented for payment. Has every council member had a chance to look?
It's low for $68.
What's the description?
It was all this mailbox. Something was getting another.
I don't think it was it? Not that type of mailbox. It was one that got damaged. And they did try.
How about all this stuff at Walmart? They're not bothering.
Well, it can, it's just, it takes a lot of time to get it all. So we just did the order online.
But you can't do that in town, so you have to spend the money in town. No, but I was saying,
We can make time to go. Shop in town.
it's like $416.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Any other questions regarding
Solid
that?
seed ground, what's that?
What is it?
Solid seed ground, what's that?
Oh, that's for the, whenever we had that cleanup. Well, it depends on which one. Is it WCA or BWI?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we have our electric cleanup, there's not any restrooms over there for the guys.
It's $997.37, creative product sources.
Is that like,
Is that the library? Yeah, that was paid for actually by donations.
Friends of the library?
To the city.
Josh Mullins, you want to donate.
yeah, he's resigned, so he had that much money in his uniform account, so we paid it out.
And we furnish gloves and boots for the workers.
We do.
We do.
PPE would be required by either statute or OSHA that we furnish any personal protective equipment that's required or necessary.
Anything else? We always purchase our pouring powder and things like that from Lowe's or,
That was probably, it was full, wasn't it?
okay.
Yeah,
maybe
it was full as well.
Okay, okay. And that's in Springfield?
Yeah, was there a reason we just needed it at that time?
That was for the water line project over here,
Okay, that's when we put
the
the,
50-pound buckets
okay,
of the powdered chlorine that we got to put in the lines.
to sanitize the lines that we put in.
Yes,
This Colin Dodge, was that not under warranty?
The transmission was under warranty, the steering was not. We got 3 estimates on getting that front end fixed, and Sam approved getting that done.
This license fee, $6,087, what's that?
That's our annual fee for our software, our utility software and payroll. Here.
That's the legal, is that not?
It is.
They paid so much of that, didn't they? When they gonna pay so much?
What they pay just the,
There was about $3,000 that it was agreed that the cabinet company would pay. That was mainly for valves and for pipe, things like that. Anything that it would take to bring the utilities up to him to accommodate that tap on the water line.
So has he paid that?
That's a good question. I don't know. Have you received any?
I would have paid it in the back. I'll have to ask the girls Monday.
Sam, I think if they'd been paid and he didn't know at the time. Chuck, do you know?
I do not know.
You don't know? Okay. All right. Well, we're not sure about that, but it's a little
But we
over
can find out.
$3,000. I want to say $3,400. If Mitchell was here, he'd probably know.
Right.
And we will ask him when he drives. But, as far as I know, that has not been collected. Any other questions on the bill? Get adequate time to review. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the bills as presented and to approve the bills being paid.
Bills.
We have a motion on the floor to pay the bills and accept the bills as presented. Do I hear a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on down then to the Seymour Development Association. And since I'm a member of that, I can't speak to anything in particular, but I still can conduct meetings. So do we have a representative here of the Seymour Community Development Association? It is the most progressive civic group in this city.
Yes, it is.
Beyond that,
I'm your representative committee, I'm the president.
and who are you?
Sheila Sturgeon. Just want to spell my name?
Come over here so we get you on TV shoot.
Oh, in 2015, as you know, the Christmas displays that was purchased by several Seymour merchants was given to the Portland community, better so. They decided that we wanted these displays back in the rightful hands of the town's merchants, so we went and approached Portland. In December of last year, our committee paid out $400 of our own funds to get these Christmas. Since it was so close to Christmas last year, we only got 2 of them working. City put them up here in town. We bought the wire and stuff, and then the city was so gracious as to go ahead and set 2 of them up last year. Then after that, we asked the city if they could store them for us, and they were gracious enough to do that. So after much discussion with our own committee, we think the rightful owners of this display should be given to the city of Seymour. From the businesses, we want to make sure that they no longer are able to be given away to someone else. If something was to happen to our committee. We want to make sure they stay with the city because the businesses bought them. So we'd like to donate all these displays and approximately 800 lights that we bought to the city of Seymour. At which time we are now working on getting all of the displays fixed. Some of them have bulbs missing and some sockets missing. But we're working on getting all that fixed, you know, before we hand them over to you. But we'd like to see them all up at Christmas. And we'd like for all the people to enjoy them, because that's what they were for. Yes. Was for the city to enjoy. There is a manger scene. There's like a 5.5-inch snowman. There's like a 3.5 snowman, and he's holding some kind of sign too. There's a Christmas tree. There's that Santa that waves. We did put him up last year. There's a candy cane, and there's a gingerbread, and then a Santa on the motorcycle. To donate these to the city. Like I said, we will have them working, and we're going to, a few needs little paint spots, but we're going to get them fixed up to 100% before we give them to the city. And we'd like whatever they could to put them up at Christmas. We just feel like they belong to the city. We'd like your input on it.
I think it's great.
There's not a downside to this.
No.
It's not.
It's a win-win situation. And in fact, I'll give you an update report. About half of those today, and we do have a handful of sockets that need to be replaced still. We had a little excitement down there. We tried to put bulbs in them, and we had a little flash or 2. But other than that, I got Tyler calmed down, and he cleaned over half of them up, and had most of the bulbs working, and the painting is pretty well all done. So what we have before us is a gift horse, you might say. And you know what the old thing is about a gift horse?
The businesses were so upset when they were giving away. Oh my.
Yeah.
It was such a downfall. And I would hate to see something like that ever happen again.
This is absolutely a good thing. And there's not, like Jim says, no downside in this. So what we're being offered here is all our Christmas display back in full working order. And so what I'd like to see is a motion from the floor to accept these lights displayed on behalf of the city to keep them in perpetuity. That's right. In the city's hands and to be displayed every year for the pleasure of the citizens of this town.
From last year?
I think we did.
Yeah, we had some wires that we bought too.
Yeah.
And all that will be donated to them.
I'll move with that.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the lights, and we have a second. Any further discussion or any questions?
Would it be the city employees' responsibility to put those up?
Yes, it would.
They put those two up last year. Sam had to go out and put them up. And they had to rewire them and everything, but Mitch did it.
Worked out well. And we had some heavy duty plugs that were put on there and Seymour Development Association paid for that as well.
Yes.
Very good. We've got a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the lights as a gift, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Ms. Kirby. All right, we're down to the part of our meeting that calls for an opportunity for our citizens to discuss anything that might be on your mind that you need the city to know about, or to a dissenter or a something that is in your favor that you might praise the city for. Open to the public. Chair will recognize Dean Brown.
Yeah, I'm Dean Rao, South Side. I sure am missing that siren blowing at noon and 5 o'clock. I know some people don't like it, but as far as I'm concerned, that's a sign that Seymour's alive and well.
All right, good. I was not aware that we didn't have it, but I guess I just haven't missed it then.
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, how long's it been off? I heard it not long ago.
Was it blowing today?
I wasn't even down today, part of the day.
Is it broken?
It's
or-
broken.
Okay,
Sam is assigned Mitch to fix it.
okay.
Okay.
We hadn't chose not to do it, it's just a matter that it's out of service. Is that the case?
Well, you know what, we've done two things with that. We've alerted citizens that we've got a problem that needs to be fixed, and we've accommodated the interest of at least one citizen that came and said she didn't appreciate that thing blowing. So we've done two things.
She's gonna think that we have lunch or wishes.
Years ago, I might tell some people in town and the siren blowed and it blowed. It used to blow when they have a fire, you know. This lady said, "What is that siren blowing for?" I said, "It's either an ambulance, a fire, or the worst case of 5 o'clock we've had in a long time." So, but I like it.
So you don't like for it to blow, or you do?
I do like for it to blow. The only thing I'd like better for it to blow at 8 o'clock in the morning too. That's out of the question.
That might be. Okay.
But I do like the noon and 5.
Any other comments from any other citizens?
Some of us try to sleep past 8 once in a while, Dean.
Huh?
Some of us try to sleep past 8 once in a while.
Yeah, I know it. Some of the night workers wouldn't appreciate that, so I'll go along with the noon and 5 o'clock very well.
Chair recognizes Mr. Weimer.
Yeah, I read through Tim's work notes, which I said before was my favorite parts of meetings here. I noticed he talks in here about on the, when the Lions Club did its trunk or treat, that a business owner got hacked off, that the street was blocked off. It's real tricky to figure out who that is. But regardless, this topic came up at the merchants meeting last night. And Bob, our president, Bob Crump, had indicated that because of this complaint, the bid or limited on when we close the square for the Christmas parade. Can anybody answer that for me?
I don't think we would, because it'll be on Saturday.
Well, that's what I thought too. That's why it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Yeah.
But Bob was fearful that that could be the case. Because I guess it didn't relate to him that could be the case. And I guess if so, I was gonna squawk about that because again, it's a Saturday and there's no business on the north side of the square. Really on Saturdays, I think Nadine's the latest one open on the square. You close at 3, don't you, on Saturdays?
Yes, 3.
So if we close, because we'd like to close the square at 4. There's a lot of events going on. I wear a lot of hats in the Arts Council. We're things at the theater that night. And then in addition, I know that over, I think the young kids are doing their ham and beans. So we're trying to turn the Christmas parade into an event versus just a parade.
And I think excuse me, I think that the senior center will be open.
It will be.
For hospitality.
So at any rate, I was hoping that, okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't prohibited. I don't want us to go there and start trying to close the square and have Scott put me in cuffs or something. So
Very good, very good.
anyway, all right, that's all I had.
I think we'll be good then. So it's our intent to be, hold the square down and have a great Christmas parade. Celebrate the season. Any further comments before we move on? Yes, we have, gentleman here in the audience, and Steve, but I can't call your last name, Steve. If you'd come forward and state your name, if convenient.
My name is Stephen Lowry. Last meeting, I heard some comments about the veterans and the, pardon the expression, but us older soldiers. That we understand everything, but what I want to say is, when we went in, was inducted into the service, or we enlisted, whatever, we were given the best training available on how to handle all small arm firearms, any guns. I was a tank commander. I could fire anything all the way up to 105 millimeter. But I had the training, I had the knowledge, and I had the forethought to know when to use whatever it was, whether I was ordered or not. Now, we were told if we was in a situation where someone was shooting at us, we had the right to shoot back. I talked to Officer Dinwiddie here, he's a good man. And I asked him this morning, I said, if the situation in Texas, now, if someone come out, someone's shooting at somebody, or someone come shooting at me, do I have the right to shoot back? Because I'm sure not going to stand there and let them shoot at me. So, but I just can't see somebody doing that, but there is people like that. I realize that. Now, I can run I've been background checked through the military, been background checked through the federal government. I've been background checked through Marshville with the sheriff's office. I have a gun, and I can carry the gun, but I let my permit run out. Now, the new state law says we have the right to carry a gun, but the city said we don't have the right to carry it open. But I see a lot of people doing it, but I see a lot of people that have been trained. Over at the church where I used to go, I'd say there's about 30 women went through there. So they're packing. But anyway, this man right here, he does his level best to protect us. I see that man, he drives through my neighborhood several times a day. I see him driving all over town. I see him answering calls. He knows his job. And I informed him, just like I informed Sheriff Cole that time, and Ron, when he was pretty cheap here. I said, I'm not gonna start any trouble, but if I do, I'll come to you first and tell you about it. So, I know I see a lot of veterans here in town. And those boys, if you ask them, they have never forgotten the training they had firearms. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Steve, for your comments, and let me say, as one, we appreciate your service and realize that, there are differences of opinion sometimes, but yes, your service is appreciated and your comments are appreciated. And we are still in deliberation over how to change our current, ordinances that would govern that situation. So we may address that this evening, or it may be at the next meeting, but rest assured, it's not finished. We will revisit that ordinance. Appreciate your comment. Anything else? Seeing none, I'm gonna move on then. Mitch is still not here, but Chuck is. Chuck, would you like to give us your report, please? Go ahead, Jeff.
I think y'all should have a copy of it.
We do.
We spent most of our time working on the big projects, sidewalk, water line. We got pulled off sidewalk for a while to help get the water line. We got back on the sidewalk. We had a few delays because of weather. When we came back to the sidewalk, we got some rain and kind of delayed us a little bit, but we have the sidewalk all poured, 451 total feet of sidewalk. It's all poured. We got worth of dirt work just to clean it up and make it look pretty. That we'll do first next week. But the sidewalk it's all in. So I ordered the road salt for this winter. It came in last week. So we're all set up on salt for the winter. We started putting the big plow truck together. Yeah, we'll get it finished up next week. As well as the 1 ton, get them set up for spreading salt, pushing snow. So we'll be ready for the winter. And we've got a long list of projects starting after that. And we got the play area that we talked about, which I've got the bids for. I talked to Raymond Kingery.
Yeah, I've seen it. And you guys worked out there and Randy got that done in front of the store. Thank you. You've done an awesome job for that. It's a quick job. And I've heard a lot of comments that you guys, seems like you're getting a lot done. So thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
That was out in the rain and
We tried to get some things done, so.
that was good. Good job.
Now the big things are out of the way. We should be able to
Yeah,
start hammering away at these smaller projects. Talked to Raymond Kingery about that fence road. And he's not in any hurry. He just wants to get it done over the winter time. So I talked with him. I told him that probably right after the first of the year, we get out there and we can get that cleaned up for him. McMahon, or the thoroughfare, I checked on that for you.
Yeah.
The streets, all of the streets that tie in the thoroughfare are all 18 foot wide. So it's right in line with all the rest of the streets, but there was a big pile of brush where somebody cut down a tree and piled it there. We hauled all that away, so I'm kind of hoping that's maybe what the complaint was about. And the pea gravel for South Park, there's just 2 quarries in this area that have the rock that they need for that. We got J&R out of Ava. Their price was $21,2350. Then Peterson out of Mansfield, which was $22,8240. 137.74 tons.
Now, you probably wouldn't do that though, with spray bleaching now, or bleaching.
We're planning on getting started on that right away.
As long as it's not wet,
Get it done before it's time for the kids to play.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's just the 2. Anything else was so far away that the delivery costs would have been just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we need to try to keep it as local as we can anyway.
it appears that there's only like $160 difference in the two bids, and if they both include delivery, it looks like the cheaper price would be the way to go.
I believe J&R's who we've used in the past. Which is,
That's who you used in the past.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, we've gotten to gravel before, but there's just not very many people that sell it.
Yeah, we've got Pete Gravel out there now for under the
Okay.
swings.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, David got some in like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Could you tell me when it's gonna snow? I got my sleds out.
I wish I knew.
It's all ordered.
So better to get in here early before you need it.
Safe than sorry, Nate. I got my sleds out.
The small towns aren't real high on the pecking order, so if you wait for it to start snowing,
That's right.
And they call
Last
up.
year we didn't get to use it.
didn't use a whole lot last year. And I only ordered one load last year because the year before we had some carryover. So last year I just ordered one load. I ordered two this year. So if this year is anything like last year, then the next year we'll just have to order one load again.
Well, I had several people ask me about the pile of dirt where we're putting the pipeline in, and it was my understanding that it needs to settle before, and because that's what I've been telling them.
And we need a couple good rains on it.
Yeah, I've been telling them that the dirt needs to settle before it can be.
Yeah, we've got plans to go over there and clean it up, but we're hoping to get a few good rains on it.
I was hoping I was right.
If you clean it up now, then it rains, that's all when you suck it in, you have to.
Yeah, exactly, then you have to refill it.
That right around the water, the fire hydrant, and that driveway that comes in 15, 20 foot back, that they evidently picked that up today. I know that Bud had to do jury, and I think that's when they picked that up. It looks good. It does need to be, and the gravel that we have down there, what's our intention to do with that?
Hold on.
Right. It's not
We'll take
top
that.
quality.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'll take the road grader out there where the water line run down Hillcrest or Old Hillcrest Road. I'll take the grader out there after it settles and grade that out.
Well, like I said, that's what I've been telling them. Because I think Bud told us one time that the reason we left the graves piled up is so they could settle.
You know,
And
that,
the house all dirty.
go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Anthony, I think, Anthony Kelly, you know, he bought that property on of Hillcrest, and he would like to see that fence row cleaned out, and it might be a very convenient time for us to do it while we're doing this other work down there. And because if that property develops in there, they'll need access. And we've just got a big water line down there. We can accommodate a lot of things down there.
Yeah.
So, so it might be a good time to think about cleaning that fence row. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
Anybody got questions for me?
Good job.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Right. We're gonna get some things done, and we do appreciate it. And we know this, Chuck. We've been noticing.
Well, thank you.
It was a little bit of hazardous down there, I think, though. Down on the fore end, down where the apartments are at. We didn't have any casualties. We had a little bit of, we had to buy some calamine lotion.
Yeah, me, Stephen told me that. I ended up with poison ivy. Got it all over my face.
You know, I had some on my arm, and still have a little piece on my arm, and I laughed when I saw it, but it served me right, Chuck. And then I went home and broke out with some on my arm. I don't know how in the world I got it, but I did.
The hazardous part was I took it home and gave it to my wife.
Oh, no.
That was the hazardous part.
In more ways than one.
Well, he wanted to share.
It was hazardous to his life, what it was hazardous to.
I know when we get it at work, I'm sure the other clinics would offer the same. The clinic in Mansfield, we go get a steroid shot if there's two of us that get it really bad. And within a couple days, it clears it up, and usually you're less susceptible to get it the next time.
That's what they
I think it's about $100, I think, for the shot.
If that indeed is what I have on my arm, it's the first time I've ever had it in my life, but it very well could be. It served me right, and I just thought it was humorous. I said, "What's that all over the side of your face, Chuck?" It's like pouring out. But anyway, do appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any more questions for Mr. Smith? We've come to the mayor's report now. A couple of things I have, but I'm to honor the day tomorrow. This is the last meeting that we'll have before Veterans Day tomorrow. This is a special time. We pause from our busy schedules in our lives and think about what enabled us to do what we do, to have these meetings to discuss the ongoings of a free society in this community. And so I thought it only well befitting and the right thing to do to recognize those who have served our country, and some of them paid their last respects for this country with their lives. So a lot has been done for this thing behind me here and what she stands for. And so I've asked tonight for one of our previous council members and a man who has served his nation in the armed forces of our land to come for a short dissertation on what freedom means to him. Dean Round. We'll do that when you're done.
I might say, what freedom means to me means everything. I spent 16 months in Korea, not fighting. I haven't been in the war. But when I got there, they shipped me up on the demilitarized zone where the soldiers quit fighting. Bad. There's no war going on. They handed me an M1 rifle and a clip of ammunition. Or there's no war. They said just in case the North Koreans decide to come south. Get your steel pots. You'll be wearing 16 months I carried that rifle. I was a very fortunate man. They never come south. The deal was, they always said, when the North Koreans come south, 80% of us would never make it back across the MGM River. Often thought, 80%. I wonder who's going to be with me, but I'll be. Sure was. But what freedom means to me is, it goes along with the flag, patriotism. Patriotism is something that we have to have. If we're not patriotic to our country, and if we don't obey the rules of the land and what have you, then freedom will go out to the wayside, and we won't have it. It says, patriotism that is willing to sacrifice itself for the human good, not for its sake or nothing, but that it that anyway is patriotism. It is not for the weal of the country, whether it be popular or not popular, but we will do the right without regard to consequences. And another thing on freedom, I just kind of wrote it down. And this is kind of a motto that a person should have. It is better to die fighting for freedom than to be a prisoner all the days of the rest of your life. And that is exactly right. I was there, I was ready to give my life, although I didn't want to. A lot of men have. I belong to the Webster County Memorial Association, and we do funerals. Last year, we done right at 70 memorials for the veterans that had given their life, you know, that died, that had fought for the freedom of our country. Those that had fought, but they were all willing to fight. And there's a little bit that they read at every funeral, which you probably all heard it. And it goes like this. This banner, they fold the flag. They come in and they fold the flag before they play the tags. This banner of love and devotion, now being folded, is a living memorial of the courage and thoughts of our comrade for the one who came here. We came here to honor this day. The blue field represents the sky that overlooks our land and denotes the watchfulness of God, eternal. Red stripes tell us the blood, sweat, and tears that has been offered and conquered by our comrades. Devotion to the responsible freedom of this country. The white stripes boldly proclaim the peace that he helped to bring to our future generations. This is his flag. And they read that at every funeral. And it has a lot of meaning. And when they read that and they play taps, I often wonder, he is a veteran. I don't know him all the time. What did he do? Did he fight in the trenches? Did he help some way or another? But whatever he done, he was willing to fight for the freedom of our country. Mr. Steve, little deal you was talking about, this is clear off of that. There's one belief that I do have. My life's in danger and the police is not available. I would rather be judged by 12 people than packed by 6.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your dissertation. I came to the meeting this afternoon. I had the idea for a while, and I had Clifford working on that, but he didn't, I guess he didn't find anybody to come take it. I'd like to just say a few things about, and you were in the Army, is that right?
The what?
In the Army?
Right.
Okay, so the Army's been represented. Steve, you were in what branch?
I was in the Army.
You were in the Army, so you both represented the Army. I'd like to just say a few words about the Navy, if I might. My dad was on the USS Enterprise in the Battle of Pearl. You may know that that was the only ship, or one of the only ships afloat. There may have been one other. But she was in every major battle of the South Pacific. I also had an uncle on that ship. And just let me read some of the battles that she was in. She's the most decorated ship in the history of our country. And I was telling Paul, I said, I've got to use a magnifying glass to read the back of this card, and I'm wearing glasses, so that shows something, doesn't it? She was in the Battle of Pearl, of course, in Midway. Battle of Midway, Battle of Solomon Islands, the Renown Island, Asiatic Pacific Raids, Western Carolina's operation, assault and operation of Iwo Jima, anti-submarine action, Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands, Holland operation, Lafayette operation, and there are many others, but she's in every major battle of the South Pacific. And so we owe all of our servicemen a debt of gratitude at this time of year when we stop and recognize those who make our freedoms possible. And I say, thank you.
I might say one more thing. Everybody's invited to Marshfield tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. They're having a Veterans Appreciation in the high school gym. And all the veterans will be honored there at that time. I'm very fortunate. I am going to get to help post the colors. Then after that, we're coming over here to Seymour. and you probably read it in the paper, and the school's gonna feed the veterans, and they'll have a program afterwards,
So
which
you'll
is
be
very
well
good.
fed.
And what paper then? What paper was that?
Seymour.
Very good, very good. One other thing I'd like to, no comment about that, comment. I'd like to make a correction if, Sam's not able to be here with us tonight. He's in Memphis, taking care of some family business, and I hold his hands up to do that. But there is one item of correction I'd like to correct. Here it's on the last of the three reports, page, first page, and second paragraph. It's weekly report 11/2/17 to 11/8/17. The second page in the heading would be 11/2/17 to 11/8/17. It's the last page of that report of Sam. And it says here that I talked with Mayor and felt that I should change my focus to the police chief interviews from now to let the utility commission rest. And frankly, I just didn't do that. So that's a misnomer. And I am very interested in getting this commission done. And I think that we're agreed as a body that, that position might be filled with no rush, possibly after the first of the year. I have talked to a couple of people in regard to that. I've talked to the Missouri Police Chiefs Association in Jefferson City. They have a process by which they go through, and I'm sure Scott's aware of that. It's a rigorous process where they do the interviewing, they do the background check, they do the drug check. They have an average after they do this for a city of about 5 years on the average, and some much longer. But it's a very thorough thing. So if we should decide to get their advice on that, the cost is around $1,500. They would reduce that. I have a friend or two up there. So generally the cost would be $2,500. Our cost would be about $1,500. Let them do the interview process for us, and then we would not necessarily have to hire who they recommend. If we go that route, I would seriously advise the council to consider that. I just throw that out this evening. Not that we're going to talk about that in any length, but I'll throw that out to you. And it might be on the agenda for possibly the next meeting. In reference to the utility commission, this organization that we buy power from, and I can't pronounce it, MPUA, how do you pronounce it?
Missouri, MPUA.
That's who we buy.
That's the acronym. That's,
Yes.
that's not, they're part of it. That's not where our power is purchased from, but they're part of it.
Right, okay. Organization, and we have a close sister city here that a member has an organization such as we are talking about. And the lady there that's the city administrator is Beverly Hicks, and she's been recognized by these folks for her outstanding leadership and utilization of this board to bring about the best results for Willow Springs, Missouri. And it says that Hicks has served as administrator of the city of Willow Springs since 2015 after beginning work as its financial officer in 6. During 11 years, the city's budget financial officer of the city has built substantial reserves for its utility operations and has proactively supported both by this organization and they have supported the work there. So in touch with them, see if we can get a track to run on, see if these people would be elected for 2-year terms, and then they would probably choose a director from among themselves the chairman, and then have odd number of years for the appointments. We can decide that. We can build structure into the organization. We have decided as a body to have one. We just got to figure out who those folks are going to be and how it's the best way to set that in order. So I have done some work on that. I do not have that put before you this evening. But have done some work on that to move toward that. And I think it was a good move for the city. It evidently was a very good move for West Springs. So with that correction and with that being said, I would tell you that that's all that I have to say about that. Any questions?
Have you got really calls on anyone wanting to run it?
This is a good question. I don't know if we've had
I think Sam has one, no,
one. Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Okay. And I'm not aware of any more than the ones that I presented and then this exception to this one. If the council has names that they'd like to suggest, the chair would be glad to review those names, talk to those people, and possibly appoint those to you for consideration.
Now, can they have a business in town, or do they have to live in town?
Well, I guess we as a council would have to decide that. Some would say that living in town is a requisite. Some would say having a business in town would be enough of a requisite to. But I think it's up to us as a council to determine what we will allow in.
I thought we decided at a prior meeting that it would be required they live within the city limits.
We would have to go back and revisit the motion, but that could be right.
It was in a form of a motion necessarily,
No,
because we hadn't really gotten that far in this process, but perhaps it was just a verbal discussion, that that's the direction we felt was most appropriate.
Councilman Bennett, I do recall that being talked about. You say, I don't think we made any hard and fast rule on that because we had not set in order the organization. We did decide we needed one. We have not structured it. So that could very well be part of discussion. Councilman Ashley.
Mr. Paul, was there any legal?
Well, whether or not they have to live in the city
Whether
limits.
they have to live in?
I haven't seen anything that that's a requirement. Generally, how these things work with these kind of, not necessarily utility commissions, but commissions in general, is that when they start out, the goal of the elected officials is usually to create those commissions where they have to be residents of the city. And what typically happens, not all the time, but they struggle to get enough people to fill the commission.
Right.
And so the idea of they have to be citizens usually goes out the window because in order to fill all the slots, and there's a really good person that would be good on it, but they don't necessarily live in the city limits, to being a business owner being the requirement, just because it allows a bigger area for putting people on the commission. But I mean, it's not, there's no requirement to have to be a citizen of the city of Seymour.
So we can, we're kind of breaking new ground here. So, when we put the nuts and bolts to this, and we can do it at the next meeting, we can put it on the agenda and put the nuts and bolts of this commission. And then go about figuring out who we want to serve. So, this might be a good place to start, to look in the city itself, which we're doing. And then if not enough qualified people are found, then we may have to go outside that and look for citizens that are operating businesses in this town, but maybe don't live inside the incorporated city limits. So I think if it be the pleasure of the council, we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting and put the nuts and bolts to the structure to this organization. And I'll get some more information from Ms. Hicks over at Willow Spring she's doing an excellent job. She's been awarded by this, concern for her work that she's done. And they have acquired, assets, which is good for the city.
Or someone else might call in, or someone, people might call in and be on there.
That's right. That's right, if we opened it up. Very good. Okay, that's all that I had. Then we'll move into, Mr. Lynch.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything specific, but I prosecuting earlier this afternoon, there was, Officer Dinwiddie needed to talk to the council about, an officer, wanting to stay on in a reserve role, and he's not on the agenda, so I'll use my time to defer to Officer Dinwiddie so he can alert the council of what's going on with the potential reserve officer.
Very good. Officer Scott, would you come forward and do your presentation?
Officer Petula has moved on to work at Cox South as a security officer, but in his resignation, he asked to stay on as a reserve officer here.
I don't see any great problem in that, council. It would be at your pleasure. This man would operate, I guess, on a part-time basis and fill in where you need.
Right, fill in whenever we have a shift that needs to be covered, or he would have to, obviously, reserves do about 16 hours a month of volunteer time also.
Okay.
Is this just on a volunteer basis, or is this a volunteer basis now?
Yeah, reserves.
Yeah, reserves are all volunteer. There is, in the policy and procedures manual, if he's called in to do a cover shift for somebody, he could be paid $10 an hour, which would be a lot cheaper than paying one of our regular officers overtime.
They've overtime.
So which one is that?
Petula. For a year, he did an excellent job. So
I'll make a motion, we approve retaining Officer Petula as reserve officer, I guess.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to retain the officer as in the capacity which has been requested. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There you have it, Scott.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're down to the Alderman report. We'll start down here with Councilman Bennett.
I don't believe I have anything at this time.
Did you wish to withdraw that? You want to make that known?
I actually did not make that motion, so
Oh,
there would be no reason for me to withdraw.
then there's no motion to be withdrawn. Very good. Well, you know, we might, this gun issue, just because it's been brought up, just because it's been presented to us that we're not in compliance with state law fully. And so we do have a new ordinance drafted, and I don't think we have it before us this evening, but
Latest proposal that was presented to us last meeting that was a table. There is no amended ordinance otherwise besides the one that was presented at the last meeting, correct?
very good. And for it to be an ordinance referendum or change, we'd have to read that.
It would need to be on the agenda, so we can read it tonight, but I guess I'm looking for direction to do, like probably Leslie is too. Do you want to put the one at the next meeting that I brought the last meeting, or does the board want some sort of a permit issue inserted in it? I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know what ordinance I need to be bringing back to the board at the next meeting.
The ordinance that was recommended or the proposed amendment is simply just struck through a couple specific things, and one was no limits the discharge of a firearm in certain areas known as hunting heritage protection areas, which are defined therein. That's really not applicable to us. We have no hunting heritage areas or anything of that sort within the city limits. The other one was I believe this is, the heading is a person commits the offense of unlawful use of a weapon if he or she knowingly otherwise 571, and you would probably.
Which is the state statute.
Yes, you would want to turn to that. You don't want to hear me read it all. But the sixth line down, it says open carries a firearm or any other weapon readily capable of lethal use within the city limits. And the concern was that the state law had changed, making it essentially legal to carry concealed or openly. But there's also language within that state law, revised statute 571-107, I believe is the specific one, or it could be, it's in 571 nonetheless. But there's language in there that says unless the municipal prohibits such, and that's specifically speaking to the open carry, if a person maintains a CCW, a concealed weapon permit, they can open carry this, they're exempt from that. But within the state statute, there is provisions in which a municipal can prohibit open carry. And in our circumstance, I think if we forget this, we're still in compliance with the state law. There's no exposure and there's no contradictions there, because the statute, the latest revised statute, specifically says unless the municipality prohibits open carry. And that doesn't prohibit totality. If you have a CCW permit, again, you're exempt from that. And you can open carry or concealed carry anywhere you choose for as long.
I guess to pin this down, are you then recommending, or is this board recommending, open carry be limited to those that have a conceal and carry permit?
Yes, which in that one,
But if we do that, we will in effect have a stricter gun law in Seymour than the state.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Well, the thing that just keeps bothering me is that the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringe covers a lot of territory.
but this wouldn't infringe upon somebody that could lawfully carry a weapon in the first place. This would not affect somebody in that magnitude. I think.
Will this affect rifles? I mean, if you can't, if you can't pass a concealed carry class, can you have a rifle in the back of your pickup in Seymour?
I wouldn't think you could. I don't know the law, but I wouldn't think you could.
If you wanted to split hairs, you certainly could, because the Peaceful Journey Act guarantees you the right to carry a weapon loaded or
But this is
otherwise.
the Peaceful Journey Act.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah, you can. You without a concealed carry.
I'm asking.
Yeah, no, you can. I teach the classes.
Yeah, and I used to too. When they passed the concealed carry law, they made it legal everywhere, regardless of the city, for you to keep weapons in your vehicle, concealed or unconcealed.
This is pertaining to open carrying in public places, is all this. Your vehicle's not a public place, that's private property. It doesn't apply in that sense. This is specific to open carrying in a public place without having a concealed weapon permit.
Dean?
Yeah, the Constitution was not written for the law, carry the guns, it's written for everybody.
But it says what it
Yeah,
says.
you were talking there, if the law allowed. No, Constitution wasn't written for the lawyers, wasn't written just for him.
Right.
I get a little of it myself. It's supposed to spill over on all of us, I thought.
The comment I made, if you're talking about the statement I made, was that the state statute, the question is that our ordinance doesn't align or contradicts that of the state statute. And my point is it is not contradicting the state statute.
You're spot on, Grady.
Because the state statute.
It is not contradicting. It's not contradicting the state law, but Seymour will have a stricter gun law than the state
As
law.
does every other incorporated city in the state of Missouri almost.
Almost. That was the key word.
Well, I mean, I think there are two, but last I checked, that have changed in their 1,000-person towns. I mean, Springfield sure hasn't changed it. I mean, here's the consequence of it, guys. Right now, somebody wearing a 6-shooter who's mentally deranged walking around town with a loaded gun with rounds, and Scott couldn't do a thing to it. Right now, you can't do that. And I'm glad you can't do that. I'm a teacher of these classes. I've taught the people in Seymour that concealed carries, I guarantee I've taught half of them. I've run more than 300 people through my classes over the last 10 years. That law is there for a reason. So that the people who are carrying handguns, at least in a concealed manner, know what the heck they're doing. It's not a comprehensive class. It's quite easy. You got a threshold so low, you shoot 20 rounds to a silhouette and get 20 feet. It's a gun safety speech that lasts 4 hours in the classroom, and then 4 hours. You're supposed to do 8 hours by law, and 4 hours it's target shooting. The point of it is it makes you run through background checks. You've got to run through a NICS check. You've got to be approved by the sheriff in your county to be permitted to carry this. Initially, it was, now it's by the county. I think that the fees for the concealed carry permit are a bit egregious at $100, but the county now handles that and maintains a list of states out of the process now. The way that this law was written, we're not talking about rifles. We're not talking about shotguns. We're talking about handguns being openly carried. And right now, it was changed. It essentially said, you can open carry if you're walking down 60. Part, although if the county had an ordinance that said you can't, that could prohibit it too, but that doesn't exist here. It notes, unless you're in a municipality where it prohibits it. And we, like most municipalities, have codes, have ordinances that prohibit that in our towns. I mean, in the 1880s, when you walked into Tombstone, they checked firearms in with the marshal. They didn't want it then.
Yeah.
Why? Because there were lunatics. I think it's good practice here. If you want to carry a handgun in town, open or concealed, take a concealed carry class, get a permit. Do it all you want.
Very good. And so, you know, I think Mr. Link just asking for some direction here, council.
Yeah, I'm not advocating.
So, and that's where I was headed with my proposal of the direction.
Now, and on their private property, here's another thing I want to stipulate too. This is public places, mind you.
Right.
On private property, Jim, in your yard, if you didn't have a concealed carry, you tote your gun, you can wear a belt and have it spin it on your finger with 5 rounds in your yard, on your property. So when people say, well, I can't defend myself, that's hogwash. You can in your domicile, in your home, on your property, as long as you're on your land, or if you're on private property with a person who consents for you to have a firearm on their land, you're good to go. Where you can't do it is public.
What do you want to do if you're not on your property and somebody threatens you? Now I've got revolvers, I've got automatics.
Get a concealed carry.
Huh?
Just get a concealed carry permit.
But the law says, state law says I don't have to.
Oh, you're on your.
And I think
I just don't know of an instance where that would ever happen. I've never heard of, I've been in Seymour for 25 years. I've never heard of anybody threatening another one with a firearm in our city limits.
we're not talking about or debating the appropriateness or lack thereof to conceal and carry. But you take a poll and the vast majority in here conceal carry. Open carry and public property.
Right.
Public spaces, open carry. This isn't necessarily a concealed carry discussion that we're ironing out here. The point was, and I was a big part of suggesting we mirror the state statute. I was ignorant to the fact of the language that says that specifically unless it's prohibited in that municipality. I think there is no amendments needed to the ordinance. Mr. Mayor is looking for some direction. I think there's no amendments needed to the ordinance, and there's no reason to put it on the agenda in the future. I think that we could leave the ordinance as is, and it will be completely in compliance with state statute.
Entertain a motion to that effect.
Okay, say, okay.
We made a motion.
No change.
We don't even need a motion. Just drop it.
If you carry.
Well, we had
CCW, right?
Openly, to openly carry in public, as our ordinance states, you would have to have it doesn't specify that you'd have to have a CCW. It says openly carrying a pistol, but if you have a CCW, you're exempt from that
That's
prohibition.
So
It
we
doesn't
already
spell
have,
that part out, but you're exempt from that by carrying that permit, so it's not applicable.
The point is well taken. The thing that I would point out to you is we've had requests to change to reflect the state, more closely the state law. We've instructed the council to do that, and he's done that. I guess we're going to say, am I reading the council right, that no changes are going to be made in our ordinances further, that we feel that they're in compliance with state law at the present time?
So I just
Is
want to
that
get this straight. You cannot carry open.
without,
Without a concealed and carry permit.
What,
Within the municipal of
what
Seymour.
about the other,
Once you do out of the municipal of Seymour, you can do what you want,
Grady?
as long as it's in compliance with state statute.
You're focusing in on like was paragraph numbered 6. The other sections, though, what it would seem like we would want to do the other thing to tie it to the state statutes and like get rid of the, whatever you read, the open range.
Yeah, I don't understand what.
Some of the stuff that's in the Seymour code just doesn't make any sense. So I mean, I would recommend if you don't want to do anything with the number 6, which is the open carry, the other sections probably could still be to coincide with state statutes.
I thought that was what we were going to do in the first place.
Right.
I would entertain the fact that we make our ordinance coincide with state statute 571. Although I think we should maintain the
Number 6.
prohibition of open carry in a public space.
Yeah, so basically the changes that we were presented at the meeting, last meeting, are all fine, but eliminate the strike through of number 6 is what your motion is in this.
I would not probably feel comfortable making that motion completely. I don't know. If we're gonna work it over, we might as well work it over. A concealed knife is considered an unlawful use of a weapon at this time, according to this ordinance. So if we're going to change it, we could probably clean it up a great deal more than what it is.
Well, then we need to give Mr. Link some direction. What is your pleasure?
Recommendation of the month.
No recommendation
So
for
you're saying
anything?
we should leave it like it is?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying at this moment, I have no formal recommendation
Well,
as to what those changes should
He
be.
can abstain. He withdraws his.
So,
I'm not
Previous
withdrawing my ability to vote on the issue. I'm saying I have personally no recommendation pertaining to this ordinance to make formally to you at this time. That's not an abstention. That's not withdrawing anything. I'm saying me personally, I'm not making a recommendation at this point pertaining to this
so what
ordinance.
we're saying, we need to let Paul look at it and maybe clean it up? Didn't you say that?
I'm said that previously, but at this point, I have no recommendation to make, period, as it pertains to this ordinance within the city's code book.
Very good.
If one of you make a recommendation, that's your prerogative, but for myself, I have no recommendation
Yeah,
to
I'm
make on this.
confused. You saw some things that we might need to change, and now you're saying we don't.
I'm not saying we do or don't need to change anything. I'm saying I want to do nothing with this at the moment. As far as a formal recommendation from Grady Bennett, I'm not recommending that we change or don't change anything at this moment. educated apparently enough on the ins and outs of every aspect of the state statute or the ordinance to make a formal recommendation. I was not prepared to do so tonight, and I will not make a recommendation on that matter. I'm not saying I agree completely or disagree. I'm saying I'm not making a formal recommendation that we take action.
And that we just drop this until we decide what we're gonna do.
Well, but Mr. Link needs to know, Councilman Ashley, what we want him to do.
If we're not gonna do anything, he doesn't have anything to do.
We'll recommend that he do nothing.
All right.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Sounds good to me.
Let's look at it and see what we can do.
I've already, what I already gave you was what.
So is this what you?
Looks to me like somebody needs to run for state senator.
Huh?
Looks to me like somebody needs to run for state senator.
We just
State
don't know.
legislature, so they can change it.
What Mr. Link has done, he's given us his opinion right here, it's before you. And he's even revised that, is that right, Mr.?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've just basically, the first, put it in line with state statute. The state statute, as, that was talked about here, allows open carry. But if the board doesn't want that, that's fine. If the board doesn't want to do anything, then I won't bring anything back to the next
But
meeting.
that's where we're
If
at
the
now.
board wants a permit to allow open carry, I'll do that. I'm not advocating any position, but I just was given the charge to make it look like state law, and state law allows open carry.
That's what you're trying to do.
Well, before I vote, I just want to make sure that if you carry in public, you gotta have a permit.
According to our current ordinance, yes. Irregardless of any decision or conversation tonight, the ordinance will stand until it's posted on the agenda in an amended form. So currently, as our ordinance states, it is illegal to open carry in a public space without a CCW.
So again, I'll make a motion, we'll drop it.
We have a motion on the floor to drop further discussion on this matter. Do I hear a second? A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'm mixed up confused. I'll say I because I don't want to think that.
The motion is to do nothing
Yeah, I
with the
know.
ordinance as it stands.
So,
Well, no, I think we should bring it to, like we talked about in the last meeting, that he should bring it up to the state code.
The only thing contradicted to the state code, as we thought, was the open carry issue, and but not if, there is language within the state statute that says open carry is exempt if the municipality chooses to prohibit it. But
okay, Mr. Lane,
then it is reflected in what the statute.
stand up and tell me what the world that says.
Well, I think what Grady's saying is that as it stands now, you can't open carry in Seymour. But what he's also saying is that if you have a concealed carry permit, you're allowed to carry open. And so even though our ordinance says you can't open carry, if you have a concealed carry permit, you don't have to abide by that ordinance that says you can't open carry because it overrides that because of your concealed carry permit.
And here's the bottom line. We can make this as strenuous as we wanted on gun control in the city limits of Seymour. You could make it 10 pages long, matter except the open carry, because the state statute would allow it. We can't more strenuous gun laws than what the state allows, with the exception of the provision they made, which is the open carry. So it does agree with state statute. State statute in this does not conflict.
I think the question people have though is they don't realize they can open carry with their concealed carry permit. That
If they took the course, they should be aware of that, I would believe.
I don't know. To me, if you read the ordinance and saw
That is correct, that's part of the curriculum.
Yeah, I took the class. And
But that's only my last couple of classes because the law just changed last year.
Well, and the chair has just advised you that, that we pay for legal counsel. What the man is educated to do, and we've asked him to review state law, tell us where we need to be. And I would just remind you that it's your decision to make, but your counsel has predisposed to give you what he thinks where we are in according to state law.
What, because of it just been put out in the last year in your classes, what about the section dealing with open carry saying, basically telling people that, saying open carry so long as you have a conceal and carry permit, restricted to the, you know what I mean? So then the people that took the class 3 years ago that don't realize that their conceal and carry permit overrides the municipal ordinance, it tells them that.
Something along the lines that open carry in a public space is prohibited. However,
Unless
if
you
are
have a,
CCW
right.
permit holder, you're exempt from that.
Right.
Yeah,
That would just
I
spell
did
it out.
class about 3 years ago.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but.
That would at least spell out to people what the,
Right, I like it simple.
I'll put something like that together. And
Put it together, simple.
Then
And you
what,
get up and talk on it.
what we need is a motion from the floor to review that at the next meeting.
To review it at the next meeting where it is simple.
Very good.
Good motion that ain't been finished.
No,
Well, we have a motion and a second, but, we've had a vote on it and we've got 2 votes in favor and I suppose 2 abstain.
You just say yes or no.
no, I would say no.
So it's dead in the water. So, I mean, we need to move forward on this one way or the other, I would think.
We're gonna circle this wagon until we move forward in the direction you desire,
No,
apparently.
you talk for it and then you talk against it. So I go,
The only thing the chair wishes to do here is point out to the council, you've got legal counsel here that represents you, trying to keep you in compliance with state code, to keep you out of any problems when they might present themselves. So that's the only thing the chair is doing, is pointing out to you that you have legal counsel here that have pointed out to you, you may need to change some things about your city ordinance. If it's your pleasure not to do it, then so be it.
I like to understand.
I do too.
And I don't know much about this, I'm gonna admit, I think I know everything, but I don't know much about this.
You want to make a motion, this last motion failed for lack of votes. Chair would entertain another motion to
Yeah, I'll make a motion, yeah.
make a motion to
He's going
to review what our council says to bring it up in the next meeting.
Yeah.
And if it it necessitates a change in ordinance, which it will, then that will be read twice. We can do that if it's on the agenda. All right, then the motion's on the floor. And we have a second. I'll ask for another vote. All those in favor?
Who's the second?
I do.
You, okay, three, sorry.
Right, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're making it simple.
Simple if we understand it, I mean, it's no big deal, it's just something we can understand.
Councilman Ashley, it seems it's leaning toward.
I don't care, go ahead.
All right, we have, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and that's
Aye.
three votes in favor, is that right? Jim, do you vote in favor?
I don't care.
Is that positive, I don't care, or negative, I don't care?
Is this direction specifically going to prohibit open carry in public space?
I will write it to where the only people that can open carry in public place is someone with concealed carry permit.
And that's where we're at now?
Yeah.
Well, then what are we?
Because we need a different ordinance that says
He
what
first
this
talked on
ordinance
that, he first talked on that where it's okay, and then he talked where it wasn't, and then he would vote on it, so.
But that's where we're at, right?
says. I didn't choose to not vote on it. I said I wasn't making a formal recommendation. I'm not prepared to make a recommendation in a formal sense as to how.
Very good, well, that'll be at the next meeting, then all those in favor of reviewing that and bringing it to the council for the next meeting, file this with state law. That's what the motion is, I believe. We have a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Sure.
We got 3 votes, Jim,
No, I just don't see any need in making a motion that says the same, or in having an ordinance that says the same thing that our ordinance says now.
Well, it will be.
At least maybe I'll understand.
It'll be different.
Well,
All
I'll probably vote for it, but not right now.
right, we have 3 votes in favor and 1 against. Motion carries. Mr. Blank.
I think I got it. Clear as mud.
All right, we're moving on to Councilman Carpenter.
We'll find another ordinance to clean up and confuse and simplify again.
I got one.
Oh,
I would like to have a copy of the ordinance that gives indefinite employment.
Not specifically to the positions that are appointed, or?
I'm talking about the ordinance that gives indefinite employment to anybody. Not one specific person.
Well, I didn't mean one specific person. The difference is a hired or appointed position, because there's a great difference in the.
Whoever has, I want a copy of the ordinance that gives indefinite employment.
Would you like that put on the agenda for next meeting then to?
No, I want to read it first.
Do you have
It's
your,
in the
But I
annual
want a
ordinance book.
it's in, should be in your code book.
I have tried.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't think there is probably an ordinance that says that somebody has indefinite employment. Is there? Have you found one?
I haven't found one. I was told there was one. So if there is, I want a copy.
I think she's talking about like the city administrator being appointed to an indefinite term. What I think you're getting to
Yes,
is that there's certain appointed positions that the ordinances currently read they're of an indefinite term.
Yes.
I was asking if you're talking about
That's what I'm
hired
talking
employees or appointed positions, because there's probably no ordinance pertaining to hired employees.
It does speak to that. I think that it says any employee that is hired for an indefinite term shall be kept under that pay scale that they were hired in at.
Most likely, what you're looking for, Mary, is probably under mayoral appointments.
But
if you're referring to the ordinance that was changed specifically to the appointment of the attorney, the appointment of the chief of police, the appointment of the administrator, that would be mayoral appointment.
she can send you one to the.
Yeah. Got it.
Anything else?
I don't know if this should. Council or not. I've had some people tell me that Seymour has a lot of bed bugs infestation. A lady moved into an apartment here in Seymour, I'm not gonna say which one. After she moved in, she had bed bugs. I don't know that we can do anything about that. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all.
That, those things when they get started, they're like the plague. They spread
Absolutely.
pretty quickly. And know that most of the lesser expensive hotels around the country don't have bed bugs. It's the upper end hotels. And the reason for that is that the people that frequent those places travel abroad quite frequently. And as they travel abroad, those places don't spray or treat for bed bugs, and that's where they pick those things up on their luggage and they bring them back to this country.
Is there anything concerning something like that, an infestation?
We can look, but.
Would you look for me?
Dean might be able to answer if the health department would have anything pertaining to it. He's been involved with the health department. If we don't have anything, surely the health department would have something that would give you some grounds to have. We would hope it would.
Well, it's pretty sad when you move into a place and then it's infested.
I'll do some research on that too.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, I want to thank, the officer for patrolling the streets, because I feel that the more you're there, the less problems we have on that street. And you know what I'm referring to.
Very good.
And the Norfolk Street too. That's all I have.
Councilman Chris.
Has anyone been over the 510 Court Street? Now, Arlene's not said anything to me, but I went there this morning, and that is an awful mess everywhere. There's tires all out in that front yard. How could that possibly be that awful? And they don't have to do something.
It's not as bad now as it
Oh,
was.
yes, have you
Oh,
been to that?
I know, it
I've
was
never
really, but he cleaned it up for a little bit,
Yeah,
but it's
you
coming
ought to
right
see it
back.
now.
I know.
It's awful. It's a disgrace. I mean, if they don't clean up, they need to have to move out of town or something.
Well, we need to probably
If you get a
instruct the
chance,
city
I want
administrator to
you, I
drive them
want
with.
you to go over there.
Yes, can I?
Whatever happened, especially when they were in court, whatever happened.
I don't know, I don't do court,
I want to say that there was a fine they paid it. I mean, there's, if you fine them, people, and that's like speeding, if you give them a speeding ticket and they pay the ticket, that doesn't mean they're not going to speed again.
That's true.
So what can be done, Paul?
Well, I mean, give them another ticket.
I mean,
The hard thing you have to realize though, and this kind of,
everything.
talking more globally, is what one person views as an awful eyesore that isn't necessarily to somebody else a big deal. I mean, something you think, oh, I can't believe that's in the front yard. Well, maybe that's what they use for lawn furniture. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that you.
Codes that you can do that.
I know, I'm just saying there's some things that just because one person doesn't like what their neighbor has in their yard doesn't necessarily mean it's some big legal violation to have it in their yard. But, I mean, I haven't been out this house, but I mean, if there's problems with what they have in their yard that is against code, then.
Their tires, right now, they're absolutely everything in the front yard.
There is.
They are absolutely everything.
But you have to remember that, and I haven't been out there, but like tires, I'll have to look, but it's code so you can't have tires, because some people use an old tire and paint it and use it as a planting bed, and so then if you give somebody a ticket for having a tire in their yard, and then they say, well, what about the Joe Blow on the street over that's got a tire in his yard, but he just has a flower in the middle of it, so you don't have a problem with his tire, but you have a problem with my tire.
If we let everybody do that, we don't even need this gentleman right here to pick up trash.
Oh, I know.
You probably do without me doing it.
Oh, no, I would never do that. So we have a way to argue with. Can we send him a picture? I want you to go out there and look.
I would have make that trip out there, but
It is.
it was in the side yard and it moved pretty well.
Yeah, it's right in front now.
But we need to ride with it, that's for sure.
I believe the ordinance will require to write the letter first, and then they have so many days, and then we can write the after that. So, Sam will have to write them.
He would.
As soon as he's done that, then I'll go over and write.
Very good.
But that's all I've got.
All right. Councilman Nash.
Just a couple of things we talked about. What about the poles? Chuck, do you know, or have we got the low poles in it? That Bob had mentioned?
I don't think they're in yet.
I don't think so. Okay. And what about the underground locator?
Yeah, we've got it.
You've got it, you've already got it here, okay? Had a lady talking about kind of a strange thing. She's very unhappy because any tire keeps throwing
Yes,
their ads out in the street, out in her driveway. And she wants to know what we can do about it. And I don't think there's a thing we can do about it, is there?
no.
That's free press.
I am all for shutting that down.
I mean, well, it does become a nuisance. The lady has called in time.
What some cities have done to address it?
Yeah.
Because I absolutely hate shoppers. You can have Paul write you essentially a littering ordinance. You're gonna have to pin it on the carrier. That's who's gonna get punished. You're gonna have to essentially have someone say, hey, I witnessed this carrier chuck this penny power in my driveway. I didn't ask for it. They threw it in my yard unsolicited. They have to fill out a complaint.
And if you want one, then you hang a nail on your,
That's correct.
On your mailbox.
That's correct.
They'll still throw it in the driveway.
And that's what she really wants to.
We got 3 hooks on our mailboxes. And they throw it in the driveway.
Yeah, I believe that.
But, and you're right, and then the person that gets the ticket is the high school kid that's his part-time.
That's
job.
correct.
Right.
Yeah, you can't punish the penny power, unfortunately, because of those drivers.
But is it penny power?
No,
Well,
it
it's
doesn't
newsletter.
say it, yeah.
Whatever it is.
What it is it's the
There's a
newsleader.
lot of information.
The newsleader bought the penny power, and they consolidated, they essentially took the penny power license, the concept, they bought out their competition, and now they put in as kind of a zone suburban newspaper edition and wrap it up in plastic and sell a bunch of inserts in it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
We can introduce legislation to take care of that, Councilman Ashley, if you so desire.
Well, do we want to do that? Is that the route that we want to go? She'd sure appreciate it if we could
Mary
get some
says
other
they're
stuff.
going to keep on.
Well,
Well, you can get, you're not trying to outlaw them or nothing, just.
No, they
make
can
them
keep
on the
doing it,
mailbox.
it's just people that complain and send a complaint. If they keep throwing them, then they're gonna get ticketed.
Yep.
I think your current littering ordinances would probably cover that, Paul, wouldn't it?
Probably. The question I would have, and again, it's just talking out loud, is if I'm, the junior in high school, that my job is to deliver the penny power, how do I jive my employment status with getting a paycheck every 2 weeks with delivering the penny power and getting tickets from the city? I mean, I guess, I don't know how all that works. If I'm gonna get 10 tickets from the city for throwing penny power, and my job is to throw the penny power.
Yeah, I guess they would have to tell Penny Power, listen, I'm not throwing in this 1 yard.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something they'd have to take up with the news leader. That's actually who owns it.
Can you make them put racks in the convenience stores? Like you see them yellow traders and them other traders and papers?
Well, I suppose you can. I mean,
See, Richard's in my league. See, that's paper. They should mail.
Well, I don't like them in my driveway either.
They should mail them with the post office, which is Richard's business. Then they wouldn't have this problem.
My guess is if you shut this down, we'll have 10 people at City Hall saying, why did you guys get rid of the thing that I depend on those coupons I get.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they're the right answer, but.
Well, for the time being, let's do this just like a gun ordinance and just drop it.
Very good. We'll move table that until, anything else, Councilman?
This is our last meeting this month.
It is,
2 weeks from tonight's Thanksgiving, isn't it?
yeah.
I don't have anything.
I have one more thing. I would like to vacate my appointment as mayor pro tem effective at our next meeting. That would be December 14th, I believe. And I would vote as a councilman to appoint Jim Ashley as mayor pro tem.
Jim Ashley don't need to be mayor pro tem. I will if you want to.
Do you have some motivation for that, Councilman Bennett?
No, I want to disclose at this time.
No, they want to go. Well, I might say that, we can certainly consider that at our next meeting, if that is your pleasure. You can certainly.
It don't have to be, Jim, that's just my
You
recommendation.
can certainly descend your
I
office.
think it'd be wonderful. Yeah, me too. That would be no problem.
Things affect our lives that, some we do foresee and some we can't foresee. Then they make changes in what we do. So is there anything else to come before this, council? For the, good of Seymour? Seeing none, I bid you have a good week and enjoy our Veterans Day tomorrow, and you can adjourn.
Have a good night.
Didn't we have a ride?
You going to St. Louis?
I know, St. Louis,